Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today for our webinar, Transform Your Organization with Sage Intacct. My name is Lauren Hogan, and I'm a Regional Marketing Coordinator here at JMT. We're very excited to have our own Andy Harleman lead us in the webinar today. He's our Vice President of Sales here at JMT, and he's going to go over everything here in a moment. Just a couple of housekeeping notes, though, before I turn it over. If you have any questions during the webinar today, please go ahead and submit them into the Q&A section as you think of them. We'll save them all until the end of the presentation, but don't hesitate to submit them as they come. Also, just a reminder that we'll send you both some handouts and the recording of today's webinar within 24 hours after it has concluded. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Annie, to get us started.
Great. Lauren, can you confirm you see my screen?
Yep, looks great.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for spending some of your time with us here today to talk about how you can transform your organization using Sage Intacct. And so what I want to do here is I want you to understand who it is that JMT is, our credentials and everything else, and therefore kind of give you a sense for why it is that we work with Intacct and why it is that we recommend it for nonprofit organizations. You can see right up front, to entice you a little bit, this is a screenshot from Intacct. As you can see, there's a lot of really cool stuff there. Metrics, dashboards, the ability to see a lot more things than you can see in your prototypical old school ERP system. So let me first make sure you understand who we are. JMT is a firm that was built for the sole purpose of working with nonprofit organizations. And we were founded by Jacqueline M. Tizo, hence the name. Jackie is still our CEO. She was a finance person at several New York area nonprofits back in the 80s. And she, 4 different times, was a customer as a nonprofit finance person, a customer of technology solutions, accounting software and such that they implemented. So she saw things from your side, from the perspective of a customer who's implementing a new tool. And frankly, Jackie often says she was less than impressed with some of the service that she got back in those days. And so she decided she could do better than that. And so it was in that spirit that she founded JMT 30 years ago, 4 months ago. So January was our 30th anniversary. So we've been doing this now for 30 years. All we do is help nonprofit organizations implement tools like this. Today, it's Sage Intacct. 30 years ago, it was different products. There have been lots of software products that have come and gone over the years. And part of our job at JMT is to make sure we know what's out there and that we're always recommending the current, latest, greatest, cutting edge technology for nonprofit organizations. So I'm going backwards on that. I am sorry. Next one. So our mission at JMT is your business. Your mission, I should say, is our business. What am I saying? So we are known because we have thousands of nonprofit clients. We're known for rapid, affordable, and yet thorough implementations, and really, truly our deep nonprofit expertise. You know, when you set up accounting software for a nonprofit organization, you better understand how to track the nature of restrictions on net assets, for example. There are a lot of really unique things about nonprofit accounting that have to inform decisions about how you set a system up. And that's what we have, is that deep nonprofit understanding that helps us to set the system up exactly right for you and your nonprofit organization. These are some of the many clients that we work with and have worked with over the years, as you can see, all different kinds of organizations. I think it's great. I can tell you how great JMT is all day long, but this is one of our clients who talked about the fact that just how we were able to identify the specific needs of a nonprofit and how that was exactly what he wanted in a nonprofit, in a consulting group. The other thing that's really important for you to understand about JMT is that we are independent. We're here today to talk about Sage Intacct, but we are not the publisher. JMT is an independent consulting firm who could work with any publisher that we want to work with. We've chosen the ones we work with for very specific reasons. So we are not a software publisher. And here's why that should matter to you. First, our commitment is to you and your project and supporting you after the fact. We curate only the best solutions so we can go out there and monitor the marketplace and pull together the best combination of solutions, whatever it takes for you. We're not beholden to just one publisher. And we were able to then assemble that in the perfect for you solution from our ecosystem. And this is what our ecosystem looks like. If you think about all the different areas that are impacted or that exist in a nonprofit organization, I should say, JMT has different products that we work with. And these are some examples here of the tools that JMT has worked with. So today, we're going to be talking about Sage Intacct and its excellence in the areas of nonprofit finances. But you can see we work with other products as well. And we have always, over the years, there have been different publishers we've worked with. Some we have terminated our relationships with because we felt that they no longer met the needs of nonprofits. If there's an application out there now that you've heard of that you don't see on this screen, there's a good reason why we have chosen not to partner with that organization as well. Because as you can imagine, JMT's been around a long time. We get regularly recruited by almost every software company, and we say no to the vast majority of them because the vast majority of them don't work well for nonprofits. And the vast majority of them, even if they did nonprofit accounting, are typically not the kind of user-friendly tool that a nonprofit would want, and other reasons like that. So it takes a lot for us to say yes. And here today, we're going to talk about Sage Intacct, which we're really excited about and how it's helped so many different nonprofit organizations. Another quote, one of our great clients, John at Cancer Care in New York, talked about how his onboarding process was really the crowning achievement. And that really is everything that we're all about. Software is just software. And we always say it's kind of like a tool, but you need an expert who knows how to use the tool to really make it do what it's supposed to do. And so I think John testifies to the fact that JMT is that expert. So the other thing that I wanted to point out to you is that Intacct does a few things that are different, that take it to the next level. First, it has what we call metrics that matter. This is a screenshot, some different examples. In this organization, their revenue, this actually comes from a sample database that we have, but it actually was a use case scenario we set up for a real client who talked about the fact that they were very much required by their board to hit a revenue number, in some ways like a for-profit might have. But they're a clinical organization, and they knew the critical factor for them was how much revenue is generated per clinician, because that then would inform their decisions about how many clinicians they needed to have in order to hit their revenue goal. And so that metric is able to be tracked in Sage Intacct, because Sage Intacct has an entire statistical ledger that treats statistics just as dollars and cents are treated. And then you can do computations between these statistics and dollars and cents and actually get meaningful metrics like what you see there. Another critical feature of Sage Intacct is the ability to get that visibility. When I talk to organizations, and when someone first approaches us and says, hey, I'd like to talk about new accounting software, we do a deep dive discovery questionnaire session with them. And I can't tell you how many times people say, I just don't have the visibility that I need into the details. So this is an example, right? From a financial report, you can drill into actual detail down to the general ledger transactions behind the numbers on the report when you're in Sage Intacct. Again, I can tell you how great we are all day long, how great Sage Intacct is, but there is a website called G2 Crowd where it's real users that rank it. And Sage Intacct continually wins the highest scores in the key areas such as satisfaction. And this is a chart that actually shows, if you look at satisfaction as the bottom axis, the furthest to the right of any nonprofit tool is Sage Intacct. It is absolutely the highest customer satisfaction, just slightly below the top in market presence, but we don't care about market presence. We care about customer satisfaction. So it continues to get the highest rankings there. And those are real users doing, authorized users doing, or authenticated users, doing reviews on the G2 Crowd website. So summing up again about JMT is that we are small enough to provide exceptional and personalized customer service to you, but we are large enough to handle any size or scope of implementation. So we have a proven methodology. Our process looks like this. I'm not going to read you all these bullet points, but you get the idea. We've thought this through. We've been doing this for 30 years. So again, it isn't just You can't just buy software like this and turn it on and have it work for you. You have to have some help implementing it. And that's what our methodology is all about. And we are here to be your partner for the long term. We're not just here to help you turn on your software and get it going in a couple of months. We're here to support you long after the fact. We see things all the time. Maybe a key staff member from your finance department leaves and you have someone new come in and they need some quick training. Call JMT back. We'll help you. Maybe 5 years after you implement Sage Intacct, the way you decided to help set up your chart of accounts has changed a little bit. Maybe there's something new about the way you do your organization's finances that require a little change there. That's okay. Call us. We'll help you. There are many, many other things that we can do to just support you long beyond when you first turn on the software. And that's why we have a whole slew of post-implementation services and support that we also offer to you. So to sum up about JMT, another quote from Sarah here, one of our favorite clients who said many nice things about us, that we became truly part of her family. So that's a little bit about JMT, a little bit about gave you a little bit of a sneak peek into the software. But let me pull up the actual live copy, which, as you can see, I've logged into. I happen to use this particular browser. I use DuckDuckGo, but you can use any browser you want, and I'm just logging in via tab. There is no software installed locally on your machine. You're not logging into some private cloud somewhere else with a firewall or some VPN connection. This is a browser-based tool. It's no different than if you wanted to go to your LinkedIn account or your Facebook account. It's based in a browser. You don't have to worry about any IT infrastructure. So this is an actual database that we have. It's a sample database that we have just for demos like this. But you can see I'm logged in. And the first thing you might notice again is this is a live dashboard. And there are different things on this dashboard. This is somebody, in this case, we call it CFO alternate dashboard. This is an organization or this person who logs in wants to look at these specific things on their dashboard. You might notice quite a few things, a lot of colors. What does that mean? Well, Sage Intacct has something that they call conditional highlighting on its reports. In this case, and again, this is sample database, so some of these numbers look awful. If that was a real life organization, it would be in real trouble. But what these do is they draw your attention to materiality. So dark red is bad, right? Green, good. I used to be on a nonprofit board, and I can tell you there were some great board members, and one person in particular, he was a wonderful board member, but not a finance person. And he was a little bit intimidated by financial statements and would ask a lot of questions. And I remember one time he asked a question about a 17-cent variance. And really, I thought to myself, we're spending our time talking about a 17-cent variance. And the poor guy, he didn't understand finance. He came from the other side of the house and was a very valuable board member in other ways. But the point is, if you have somebody like that on your board, or you have maybe program people who aren't really finance specialists, the ability to draw their attention to what really matters and what they should really be thinking about via conditional highlighting is very important. And it's something that can really help make these numbers more meaningful to people. And you can see, again, there are other things on here, charts and graphs. You could even have a CNN news feed, which we just randomly threw on here to show that we can. There are other things that you can do in the system too. You can link right up to your Google Drive or other Dropbox folders or things like that. You can chart out different things like your revenue mix. You can have cash flows. And then at the top, you might have noticed that there is a aging report, a standard aging report, but up here is an approval workflow. So this person is an approver in purchasing requisitions, POs, so to speak. He doesn't have any to approve right now, but if he did, they would appear right here. The other thing is you have the ability to do what we call chatter, collaborate within the tool. Now, I humorously made one here, which is something that shows you can actually ask different colleagues about different things and maybe why they coded something some way. So I jokingly made this one that says, "Why did you code it that way, you moron?" I don't think anyone would really do that unless they wanted an unpleasant visit with HR afterwards. But the idea is right on a transaction, you can make notes, and then this person is chosen to have the feed on their dashboard. But I can actually click on that and it will open up, go right to that transaction. So I don't have to go struggling around and looking up transactions. When I get a note like this, I am able to just click right to it. And that is a very powerful tool. We talk to people all the time who say they're constantly, before COVID, we had one client who said their CFO was on a different floor than them. And they were constantly up and down the stairs asking and answering questions from the CFO about things like that. And they were joking that with this tool, they might all gain weight because they won't be up and down the stairs anymore. But in all seriousness, in this COVID reality that we're all living in, where so many people are working from home, the facilitation of that kind of communication between staff members about transactions and other things is critical. And all being in the cloud, you can do that right from your own home. So I clicked and went right back to that bill, but if I just go back, I'm back where I was here on this dashboard. Just one example. Now, I want you to understand that this is not a set dashboard configuration. Every dashboard in the system is just personalized. And depending on your security, if you have the rights to do so, you can simply add things to your dashboard, or you can even just decide to move things around and place them where you want them. It's entirely up to you. So to illustrate how it's a completely different experience for different users, depending on their role in the organization, we have several dashboards set up. That was CFO Alt, but what if I want to go and look at perhaps what a controller would look at? Again, we've just set up a couple of sample dashboards, but maybe these are the kind of things that this controller is thinking about on a regular basis. And as you can see, again, different conditional highlighting. You can have trends and arrows just showing whether something's trending up or down, and other such things. So you can look at all this right from your dashboard. The other thing you can do is from any of these reports, and this is critical, you can actually drill down and look all the way at transactions. So let's say I'm looking at this report and I see salaries and fringe and retirement matching or whatever I want to do. Let's say I want to just look at one of these and I click on this 3820 actual. I've drilled all the way in now to the actual report, although my screen, because of this Zoom meeting, it put it up in the wrong spot there, but you get the idea. I never lost my work. I'm still right back where I started. In fact, my original dashboard's here because it just opened new tabs in my browser window. So to be able to get down to that visibility right from your dashboard, you can do that. If that transaction had an attachment on it, you can do that. You can look right back to the attachment as well. Within Sage Intacct, there are many different components that you can add on. Some come with the software, some don't. But you might notice a few that I want to point out to you. With your core subscription to Sage Intacct, not only do you get the standard things you would expect, like GL and AP and AR, but it comes with purchasing. That is, they call it purchasing. I think that maybe it's poorly named. They might want to call it something more than that, because it can be a lot more than just purchasing. But it can do all workflows around AP, whether it's a traditional requisition into purchase order process. We have many clients that do more of a ask for forgiveness, not permission. We have clients who use the purchasing tool for a check request workflow because they have their program managers that just basically have budget to be able to make decisions here and there about things that they have to buy, and they may just need a check so that they can buy something from a vendor spur of the moment, and they just use this for a check request workflow. That can all be done within the system. There are many other advanced tools that you can do. You can track time and expense. We have organizations that are grant funded that use this, not so much to drive their paychecks on their payroll, because many organizations are still using outside payroll tools like ADP, but to do things like certification of effort on where your time is spent and what grants you can charge time to is a very big, important thing that can be done there. And then you can see other things. To just give you a sense for it, many of our clients are grant funded. Sage Intacct can even do the ability to tag expenses towards a grant as allowable. Then at the end of the month, you click a button and it automatically creates the invoice back to the grantor, which includes all of the allowable previously tagged expenses for you. And click of a button. For some organizations, that's something that is taking 15, 20, 30 hours a month from a person in finance, and that can all literally go away with the click of a button because of Sage Intacct. Other things that are in here include more dynamic and advanced allocations. So sure, at any transaction level, you can do things like split up a bill, by percentage across different programs. But many of our clients have to do much more complicated allocations than that, where, for example, you may pool certain costs and at the end of the month, allocate them out to the programs based on something else, like relative revenue of each program. No problem with a tool like allocations management that comes in the software. So the tool comes with much, much, much capability. We have some clients on this software who are only 2 and 3 users, pretty simple, just cutting checks, doing general ledger and financial reporting. But then we have other clients who are very advanced with 20 and 30 people in their finance department who are using multi-currency, multiple entities, purchase order workflows, and the like. Intacct can scale to fit your needs, whether you're a small nonprofit or a very large, complex one at that. One other quick thing I just want to give you a look at is the reporting tools within Sage Intacct. Right out of the box, so to speak, although I guess we could say out of the cloud, since it doesn't come in a box like old software did, is the ability to have all of these financial reports. And as you can see, they're standard financial reports that come with the software. And then there's ones that we can actually set up in a different way. So I'll just give you an example. Let's say I'm looking at this functional expense report and I want to edit it. What you can do is you can take any of the reports that come with the system and then simply edit them, save as with a new name. So in this case, you just, we would train you on how to do this, but I just want you to get a sense for the capability. You just click over here. This gives you the basic information on this. And this shows you what rows you're using. And it's based on account groups that are set up that include whatever GL combinations you want. And you can call the account group, label whatever you want it to be, so that if you're reporting back to a grantor that has certain labels they require on their reports, no problem. We'll just help you define that with the account groups. And then you've got your columns. And I think this is where a lot of the power comes from. You can see the columns that are on this report now, but you can do things like add a new column to the right, do that. And then let's just say, for whatever reason, I'll just give you some examples of the types of columns you can add. Just in this one dropdown, this should give you a good sense of it. The types of columns that you can quickly add: a computation column that tells you how you can computate, different types of budget columns, budget forecast columns, percentage of amounts, and so forth. Furthermore, all of these can be expanded. So you have your chart of accounts and your dimensions of your chart of accounts. You can expand by those or by time periods or funds and entities or whatever, all of these different areas. And so that allows a lot of flexibility for you to set up the exact kinds of reports that you need to set up for your organization. So we can't possibly go into a deep dive with every possible thing that you can imagine on a demo like this today, but I just want you to get the sense for what's possible. This software can do many, many things, and it certainly is not the old school software that you may be used to with just black and white rows and columns, and maybe you have to spit everything into Excel because you can't do the exact configuration of reports that you want to do out of your system. So Sage Intacct, as you can see, is extremely powerful. So that's what I have for you today in terms of showing you the software. And now I think we have at least one question coming in, and why don't I go to look at the questions and I'll answer that. Is it possible to link Salesforce to Intacct? I do see that question. And hi, Netta. I happen to know Netta, so nice to see you on this. Is it possible? Yes, it is. In fact, the Sage Intacct and Salesforce have a really tight relationship, and there is a Salesforce integration module essentially that you can buy with Sage Intacct. And in fact, JMT uses Sage Intacct internally as well as Salesforce, and we ourselves use that very integration. It's bi-directional, so if we update an address on one side, it'll update on the other side, and obviously the important dollar data flows between them as well. So do we have any other questions? Well, as we transition,
Don't forget you can submit your Q&A.
yeah, and as we transition, I'll just go back to this in a second, but I see another question's come in. Can you show us briefly how Intacct interacts with outsource applications such as Cashflow 350 when it comes to AP check payables? Yeah, actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do here instead. I don't know if that specific one is on here, but I'll just show you what Intacct is. Intacct, I would say, think about if you have an iPhone like I do, or whatever kind of phone, it doesn't really matter. There is a marketplace, like there is an app store on an iPhone. And so here on the Intacct website, I'll show you some examples. So there's a whole area of marketplace partners. And this is really critical to understand. Sage Intacct doesn't ever pretend to be all things to all people. They are, from the beginning, something they call best in class. Intacct focuses all of its research and development efforts and dollars on making the best core financial system that can be out there. They are not going to dilute their focus or their dollars by trying to build a CRM better than Salesforce or payroll better than ADP or one of the other ones. Instead, they've created a platform that plays nicely with others and can integrate with virtually any tool out there that you can imagine. So there are other software out there that compete with Intacct, but if you buy their software, they're going to want to sell you their payroll. Well, maybe you don't like their payroll as well as you like their general ledger. So why should you have to settle? Intacct doesn't make you make that choice. So this is an example of some of the ones that are out there. If we go to AP automation, and welcome to the COVID world, folks. I don't know if you hear my dog barking, but I do apologize for that. The mailman must be here. So this is an example of some AP automation tools. As an example, you can see the different categories out there. So there are many, many, many ones out there, and I'm not sure if Cashflow 350 happens to be one, but even if it isn't, Intacct, it's very easy to connect data from any tool into Intacct because its import tools and its APIs just make it very easy to do. So we could have a further conversation with you about that in your specific situation, but just suffice it to say there are literally hundreds and hundreds of marketplace partners and many more hundreds of other products out there that have been integrated with Intacct that maybe don't sell that integration on the marketplace. So another question from Netta, could you mention in the modules that come standard? Yes. Core financials comes with general ledger, AP, AR, purchasing. It actually comes with order entry, but very few nonprofits use that, though some do. And then it's just a question of which of those you want to turn on. But essentially that's what comes, and financial reporting is included in that, of course, as well. So that would be the core modules, and there are many others that can be added on. Give it a moment. Any other questions? All right. So in conclusion, what we would like to do is, we understand this is a webcast isn't always the best format for being able to have the Q&A you want to have. So we would like to have an individual conversation with everyone here. So what we're doing is this. We're asking everyone if you would book a consultation. If you book it by this Friday, we'll give you a free $10 Starbucks gift card. And we'll just give you a initial consultation, and we'll talk to you about your current situation. And from that conversation, we'll set up, if necessary, if you want to talk further, we can set up a deeper dive discovery conversation. But we can certainly get more detailed questions answered for you. And we can even work towards getting you a ballpark sense of the cost of the tool. We realize that's really important. Some organizations have a much more limited budget than others. And we understand you can't always, you don't want to spend your time looking at something if it's not in the price range you need it to be in. So we respect that and want to make sure as early as possible that we can give you at least a good faith estimate as to what it would cost you. So that is our ask of everyone here on this call, is to go to that jmtconsulting.com/book and book a consultation with us by this Friday for that $10 gift card. And we have another question. It is priced by, there's a core subscription for the course modules, and then there are different user types. So it is not concurrent, but rather named users. And they have different user types. A finance user, they call it business user. This would be the users that are the most expensive. They're the ones that can be given the rights to doing basically anything in the system. But they have much less expensive users as well. People who can look at reports and also participate in workflow. So it depends on the number of users and the type of users you have, plus the core subscription and any add-on modules ultimately is what determines the price. All right, Lauren, are there anything else you wanted to add here?
No, it looks like that's great. Don't forget to go to jmtconsulting.com/book, and we would love to speak with you.
Thank you, everyone. And if you have any other questions, jmt.consulting.com, even without the /book, there's lots of great material there. And you can always find the phone numbers on that website and call us. If you'd rather just pick up the phone and call somebody right now, that's fine too. So thank you all for your time today. We really appreciate it. I hope that this has been informative for you, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andy, for the presentation as well. Bye, everyone.